everyone, my name is Larissa and today we will be reviewing AICE International History Chapter 4.4. Let's get right into it. Chapter 4.4 is Why Did Japan Become a Starting off strong, I see. 4.4 Chapter 4.4 is about why did Japan become a military dictatorship in the 1930s and with what consequence. Begin by discussing Japan's international status in 1919 and its reactions to the Paris peace settlements. Japan entered the period after the First World War in a strong position, with a modern industrial economy, a powerful navy, and increasing influence in China, and it had developed a form of constitutional democracy while pursuing a pro-Western foreign policy. At the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, Japan was recognized as one of the major powers and gained control of former German possessions in China, as well as permanent seat on the League of Nations. However, tensions quickly emerged, particularly over Japan's proposal for racial equality clause, which stated that all nations shall be treated equally regardless of race. Although supported by several countries, it was rejected due to the opposition from Western powers such as the USA and Britain, largely because of concerns about immigration and maintaining racial hierarchies. This rejection caused significant anger in Japan, where many people felt they were not being treated as equals despite these contributions during the war. This sense of resentment grew stronger when decisions regarding China, particularly the Shantung province, appeared to undermine Japan's position. Although the government continued to follow a cooperative pro-Western approach, including agreeing to naval limitations at the Washington Conference, public opinion in Japan became increasingly nationalistic and critical of these compromises. Many people believed Japan should be expanding its influence rather than limiting it. Let's discuss political factors in the decline of Japan's democracy. Japan's democratic system was facing internal problems. Although voting rights had been expanded and political parties did exist, the emperor still held very much a lot of power, and governments were often unstable, relying on weak coalitions. Political leaders were widely seen as corrupt and influenced by large industrial companies, which damaged public trust. As political disagreements prevented effective action on key issues, many people began to lose confidence in its democracy. After the First World War, Japan experienced a downturn as global demand for its exports declined. Prices for key goods such as silk and cotton fell dramatically, leading to unemployment and hardship, particularly in industrial and rural areas. These problems were worsened by the Great Depression after 1929, which caused a severe economic crisis. As poverty increased, many people blamed the government and became more open to alternative forms of leadership, including military rule. As dissatisfaction with democracy grew, the influence of military increased. Nationalist and militarist groups argued that strong leadership was needed to restore stability and national pride. These ideas gained support, especially as political leaders appeared weak and ineffective. Assassinations of politicians and the actions of extremist groups further undermined the authority of the government, and by the early 1930s, democracy in Japan was completely collapsing. The turning point came with the advance in Manchuria in 1931. Japanese military forces stationed there took action without government approval, invading the region and establishing control over it. This demonstrated that the government had lost control over its own military. The emperor did not intervene, fearing his authority might be ignored, and the government was unable to reverse the situation. As a result, military influence over Japan increased significantly, and a new government dominated by the armed forces was established. Japan had effectively become a military dictatorship. There are several reasons behind the decision to invade Manchuria. Economically, Japan needed resources such as coal and iron, which Manchuria provided. The country was also concerned about its vulnerability, and it depended heavily on imports and could be blockaded in future war. The economic crisis of the Great Depression made expansion seem like a solution to Japanese problems. In addition, the weakness of China and the distraction of Western powers created an opportunity for Japan to act without facing strong opposition. Public opinion for expansion was also very strong, as many believed it would improve Japanese economic situation. The invasion of Manchuria had several major consequences. Japan ignored instructions from the League of Nations to withdraw and eventually left the League altogether, becoming increasingly isolated from the international community. The success of the invasion encouraged further expansionist policies and strengthened the position of the military within the government. Japan also began to form alliances with other aggressive powers, including Germany and Italy, further shaping its foreign policy. let's go over the outbreak of the Second Sino-Japanese War. In 1937, tensions between Japan and China escalated into full-scale war following an incident at the Marco Polo Bridge. Japanese forces quickly captured major cities, forcing the Chinese government to retreat inland. However, despite early successes, Japan struggled to maintain control over the vast Chinese territory. Supply lines were stretched, and resistance from Chinese forces, including both the nationalists and the communists, made it very difficult to achieve complete victory. As the war continued, Japan faced a strategic dilemma. Some leaders wanted to expand further into Southeast Asia to secure resources, while others feared provoking conflict with powerful nations such as the United States. This dilemma was resolved in 1941 that Japan decided to pursue expansion, leading to increased tensions with the USA. Let's continue on by discussing reasons for Japanese involvement in the Second World War. The United States responded to Japanese expansion by imposing economic sanctions, including cutting off vital oil supplies. This left Japan with a difficult choice: either retreat from its expansionist policies or secure resources by force. Japan chose to continue its expansion and began preparing for war. In December 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the American naval base at Pearl Harbor. The aim was to destroy the U.S. Pacific Fleet and prevent interference with Japanese expansion. The attack caused significant damage and loss of life, but it failed to achieve its main objectives, as key American ships and resources remained fully intact. Instead of weakening the United States, the attack united American public opinion and led to the country's full involvement in the Second World War. Thank you for watching. This concludes our summary of Chapter 4.4. for AICE International History, and it concludes our whole summary of all of AICE International History. I wish you the best of luck with all your studies and for this exam. I'm so glad to finally be done with these review videos. Bye bye.